Hello, thanks for joining us at the European Parliament here in Strasbourg for this Talking Europe debate. I'm Catherine Nicholson. Now, as people all around Europe feel the cost of living rise and their bank balances ever more squeezed amid energy price rises particularly, we're looking into proposals for ensuring meaningful minimum wages are paid to everyone around the European Union. Now, 21 of the 27 EU member states currently have a national minimum wage, although they vary wildly from under 500 euros a month in Bulgaria to more than 2,000 euros a month in Luxembourg. In late 2021, members of this Parliament's Employment Committee backed a new draft EU law on minimum wages. Here to tell us what the law could change and debate the pros and cons, two members of that Employment Committee. I have with me the chair, Dragos Pislaru, a Romanian economist, member of the European Parliament from the centrist Renew Europe group, and also formerly your country's Labour Minister as well.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. And opposite you, another member of that same Employment Committee, Nikolai Villumsen, a Danish MEP from the Left group. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.
So let's start off, Dragos Pislaru. You are chair of this committee. You voted in favour of the proposal. Let's just tell our viewers some of the main points of what this proposal contains.
First of all, we as representatives of the European Parliament are in a constant link with our constituencies and with the citizens in the EU. And we have seen that we have this thing which is called in-work poverty. That means you are working, you are spending 8 hours a day, you are getting a wage, but that wage is not enough for your basic needs, to raise your children, to even provide proper education or health conditions, not to mention the housing issues and so on. So the basic thing that we started from was if someone is going to work in Europe, it should be enough for having a decent life and should have an adequate wage for that particular lifestyle. So what we put forward and we pressed from the Parliament side is we said to the European Commission, come up with a proposal, because the Commission initiates the legislation, come up with a proposal that we would be able to set some sort of a standard across Europe so that if people are working in the European Union, they will have the right and the decent standard of living. And right now, the Commission issued the proposal. It has been voted in the Employment and Social Affairs Committee with a large majority. And the Council got in December last year their mandate. And we are right now what is called, in the co-decision procedure in a trilogue. That means the Council and the Parliament are negotiating to find the compromise text that would transform into legislation and will apply across Europe.
Because ultimately it's the leaders of each member state that will be getting the final vote on this.
It's actually, the process is the following. I mean, we need to get a compromise in between the Parliament version and the Council mandate. And indeed, you are right. I mean, without the Council of the EU agreeing on the text, we will not be able to implement it. Now, the major provisions, because I think that can be very interesting for our viewers, is that we are looking at two major things. So first is social dialogue, collective bargaining. I mean, we have this practice that is well spread in Europe, in some member states more, in some member states less. But the whole point would be to encourage the talks in between the trade unions and the employer associations in a way in which we won't need necessarily the intervention of governments, because it's just normal to have this kind of interactions. And we consider that this is a good tradition in Europe, and we would like to see that further action will be done on that. And the second layer is obviously on the statutory minimum wage. How we can ensure that it's reaching the objective, the policy objective, to be decent and adequate. And for that, we are suggesting some criteria that would be taken into account when setting the statutory minimum wage, so to ensure exactly what I meant.
Well, let's come to you, Nikolai Villumsen. Now, you're from the Left group, as I mentioned, which, traditionally espouses that, as its name suggests, the left-wing policies, such as workers' rights and protection. One might think that you would have been all in favour of this proposal. Why did you vote against?
Basically because one size doesn't fit all. I fully agree with the intent to fight the working poor, to make sure that wages go up. But the fact is that there are differences how our labor market model in the European Union are built. I come from the Nordic, come from Denmark, and in the Nordic countries we have a different labor market model where there is no minimum wage set by law. There is no legal framework for law setting. It is done through collective agreements, and this is a model that has shown to be quite a strong model that secures strong trade unions. So my fear and the fear of the Danish trade unions, and actually the broad majority in the Danish parliament as well, and even the employer side, is that this proposal will mean that we will have to change our labor model, with the fear of actually getting more social dumping, and also the fear that we will have weaker trade unions, weaker collective agreements. That is something that we have cherished and that I fight to strengthen. So I think there's a lot of things to do to fight working poor, but getting EU interference in wage setting is a very bad idea.
If I just stay with you for a moment, you said that you have a fear of social dumping. If you could explain for the viewers, what do you mean by that?
What we see as an example in Denmark is that far too often there is a situation where we see that colleagues are being exploited, especially colleagues from the southern part of Europe or the eastern part of Europe, that are actually getting worse working conditions, less salary than their Danish colleagues. And this is totally unacceptable, and that is something we, of course, this exploitation we try to stop. But basically the fear that we have is that we will end up with a situation where you have the collective, an A team working on the collective agreement, and a B team that works only on the statutory minimum wage, and that would actually, I think, be even worse than today, where we're trying to secure that it's equal conditions for all through the collective agreements.
Dragos Pislaru, if I come back to you, social equality indexes frequently give a good rating to the Nordic countries, including Denmark, even though there is no national statutory minimum wage. What do you make of these arguments?
I believe that we are not in such a big contradiction here, and I would respect the situation in the Nordic countries, and I feel that the Commission proposals has been put forward with checking the legislative base and the fact that it will not affect the Nordic model. I believe that where the Nordic model exists right now, it should provide the right type of incentives for decent and adequate wages. At the same time, somehow agreeing with Nikolai, one size does not fit all. There are other traditions or lack of traditions in terms of collective bargaining, and then you need to do something there that would have a more direct and immediate impact. And the minimum statutory wages are definitely a solution to the asymmetric information in the labor market or practices of abuse that we might find. I see no reason for not developing better the collective bargaining and the social dialogue there, and relying on a minimum level that people will know that will give them a minimum kind of protection. While, and this is very important because I'm from a centrist group with my political hat, so while of course looking at the business environment and the entrepreneurs and being sure that we are not going on at unreasonable levels, and that's something that that's exactly why we need the social dialogue and having all the actors at the table.
Indeed, just come back to you, Nikolai Villumsen. If I've understood it correctly, in the proposal, there's not necessarily a requirement for each member state to definitely bring in a statutory minimum wage. In fact, there's a provision that says that member states where less than 80% of the workforce has access to collective bargaining, that member state should take active steps to promote collective bargaining. That actually sounds like it would be what you're asking for.
But actually it isn't. Because again, in our system, how to promote collective bargaining is an issue for the social partners to do. And if we are to then make a law on in the Danish Parliament about how to promote collective bargaining, and if the European Parliament or the European Commission comes in and also with their opinions there, then we will basically have a fundamental change to the system that we have. And this is, of course, a huge fear, because we are content with that system we have had for more than 100 years, and that has created the welfare state and the organized labor strengths that we have today. So I fully agree with the aim of this, but I just see that there are so many other ways we could do it. We could make sure that when we do public procurement, that it's not promoting social dumping. We could make sure that the EU funding that are being done are made with social conditionality, so we respect the collective applicable agreements and minimum wages in those countries who have this. So I think there are so many places where we can do good things, but here we're messing with our labor market model in the Nordic countries, and at the same time it's actually the paradox that there is no minimum level on specifically in the directive proposal on where it should be in those countries who have a minimum wage, and thereby basically there's no security that any worker in the European Union will be sure to have a higher minimum wage in those countries who have it. So that's a paradox, that we are threatening our model and at the same time not securing that there will be better conditions for anyone. So that's why I'm saying that let's focus on those things where we can actually make a difference.
Okay, I think unfortunately for now that's all we have time for on this discussion. But as you said, the process is still continuing with the other institutions of the European Union. So perhaps this proposal will evolve over time. I'm sure we'll come back to this subject. I'd like to thank you both very much for taking part in this discussion, shedding some light on this issue. Dragos Pislaru and Nikolai Willumsen, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to you for watching as well. You can find all our programmes on our website, france24.com. Hope to see you soon.